Meeting of the Norfolk City Council. We'll call the meeting to order, and to begin, we'll call your attention to the Open Meetings Act posted here in the council chambers. If you would now please join me in rising for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call, please, Beth.
Branquist.
Here.
Langy.
Here.
Merrill.
Here.
Weebelhaus.
Here.
Murin.
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
Clausen.
Here.
Bile.
Okay, I would then look for a motion to approve the consent agenda with a couple of changes. There's been requests to remove items 10 and 11 and add to the full agenda.
So moved as noted the changes.
Second.
Motion and second. If no discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Now look for a motion to approve the full agenda.
So move, Your Honor. Second.
Okay, motion and second. No discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Okay, that takes us to item number 19 on the council agenda. Special presentations, a proclamation for May 18th, 2019 as Poppy Day for the American Legion Auxiliary. The proclamation reads, whereas our community has a continuing responsibility to veterans in veterans' homes, hospitals, or nursing homes, and the American Legion Auxiliary feels obligated to help provide for the welfare of our veterans and the families of those who made the supreme sacrifice in defense of their country, and the American Legion Auxiliary Unit number 16 of Norfolk has been established to aid veterans, and the American Legion Auxiliary has chosen Saturday, May 18th, 2019 for its annual Poppy Day and has announced that all funds collected will be used to assist the veterans and their families in the Norfolk area. Now, therefore, be it resolved that I, Josh Moaning, Mayor of the City of Norfolk, by the power vested in me, do hereby proclaim Saturday, May 18th, 2019 as Poppy Day in the City of Norfolk and the surrounding area, and urge all citizens to recognize this observance and support veterans. And I believe we have someone here to receive the proclamation. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Would you like to introduce yourself to the audience? Please.
Thank you very much. I'm Deanna Higgins from the American Legion Auxiliary, and we appreciate so much letting us come before the council and before the public and talk about our Poppy Day. Really short though. We are the auxiliary, and you all know what that word means, help. And that's exactly what we do, and we want to do it, and we love doing it to help many people, not just the veterans, but other people too. As a former school teacher, when I look at these poppies, I think of lots of subjects that you can talk about. Of course, the first one is art. They're so beautiful. And the colors just look so great and they're striking. However, we all know that red is the color of the blood. And many of our loved ones and members and family members and people have lost their lives. The second subject is math. Oh my goodness. When we get these poppies in, there's thousands of pieces of them, but there's only 7 in each poppy. And members of the Veterans Home put them together, and other people help. And of course, that's good dexterity for them. I wouldn't do it if you paid me. So there's 7 pieces here, and they're just so popular. Kids love them. They love to take them apart and see if they can get them back together. And so we love giving these to the public. The businesses in Norfolk are so gracious to let our volunteers stand and welcome people and give them a poppy, offer them a poppy. And if they want to donate, fine. If they don't have to. We see all sorts of people come through. The sad faces, happy faces, proud faces, excited faces. Some people walk by, and we understand that. So, for all of you who have been in the service and you've known people, we thank you too, and thank you for letting us do this in Norfolk.
Thank you, Deanna, and thank you for your dedication to the cause, your service, and we look forward to Poppy Day each year. Thank you once again. Moving on to our regular agenda, which now includes items number 10 and 11 from the consent agenda. So we'll start with number 10. I would entertain our consideration of acceptance of a $15,000 CCCFF planning grant from the Nebraska Department of Economic Development to go towards Johnson Park, and authorization for the mayor to sign all contracts and documents related to the grant.
I'll make the motion.
Second. Okay, and to give us a little background on what this is, Andy, please.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Well, as you can see from the agenda, this is an acceptance of a grant that we were awarded for the planning component of the Johnson's Park renovation project. A little bit of background. This is part of the Community and Civic Center Financing Fund. It's a state fund administered by the Department of Economic Development for community facilities. And this is the first, it's kind of a two-step. You do the planning part, and then you can also have funding for capital construction when that takes place. Through this process, I think a lot of the, a good path is to start with the planning and then go with the construction, as opposed to just trying to apply for construction. I think the state looks at that you're kind of following a process. And so obviously this is also some funding that's really going to help us with the planning component of Johnson's Park. So we applied for this funding and we were awarded this, and we do have the funds available and that we can allocate towards the required match of this. And with your approval, we'll do everything necessary to get this filed and accepted. They'll distribute part of this funding, and then with more receipts as we pay those invoices, they will do the balance of the funding after that. So with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Andy. And Andy, this is a grant that was utilized to help fund the library renovation and expansion, is that correct?
Yes, that is correct.
I think that was a $750,000 award at that time. The grant has since been adjusted, and the max award is up to, I believe, $1.2 million. Is that correct?
That sounds right. Yes, I do know it is more than previously. So yes.
Okay, so we could potentially apply for that amount of max award anyway.
And this would allow us to do that, and I think this would position us much better to be awarded. They did note in their letter that was addressed to the mayor. I'll just make note that in their words, upon review of the application, your project ranked highly as compared to other applicants. So there's very good standing that we have with this application.
Okay, good. Seems like a good sign. Any questions for Andy?
Yeah, Andy, on this planning grant, what's our portion of the match? Is it 50-50, 1-to-1?
50-50.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions, comments, council? Okay. If none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Okay, item 11. We'll look for a motion to consider approval to accept the adjusted bid of $61,916.78 from BizCo Incorporated for the purchase of replacement equipment for the council chambers audio-video system.
Your Honor, I'd make that motion.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion second. And Lyle, I have you down to give us some background on this. Okay.
Jim's delivering a good message here. I'll jump in where appropriate. Thank you, Mayor and Council. Maybe I'll start out with a little bit of history about the system that we have in place today so it makes sense about what we're replacing it with. The current council chamber system was moved over from the previous council chambers It was originally installed in 2005, the council chambers on Madison Avenue, moved into this building in 2012. The current system is analog-based, with cameras that are all analog with standard definition resolution, so comparable to what an old tube-type television could capture and display. So it's quite antiquated. The new system will include all digital high-definition cameras capable of 1080p, 1920 by 1080 resolution, and video switching equipment. The new system will also include replacement projectors that are 6,000 lumens in light. The current ones are about 3,500, but the existing projectors are also bulb-based, so as the bulbs wear out, they tend to dim. The new projectors being laser-based, they never have to replace a bulb, and they never dim. They come on instantaneously. The color reproduction is much better, and they're also high definition. We'll also be replacing the dais monitors with new monitors, the press monitor, the operator table monitor, the DVD recorder. We'll be adding electronics to integrate the existing audio system into the video system. We'll be retaining most of the existing audio system, including the microphone, speakers, and the mixer equipment in the back, just to save money. That system is working pretty well. Our main focus is on the video part of it. We'll be purchasing 5 ADA mandated hearing assistance devices as part of this system. We currently have 1. This room this size requires 5, so we thought we'd update that system at the same time. So the outcome will be a high definition video stream for online viewing and also for archival for future viewing. It'll have seamless integration of the presentation system into both the video stream for online and also for the projection. Brighter, more colorful, high definition projection onto our existing screens. System that should last many, many years into the future. And also a high definition video feed that will be available for cable TV if we ever get a high definition channel available to us. Right now, we only have a low definition channel available to us, so the current cable TV presentation won't be much better than it is on standard definition, but we'll have that capability if a high definition channel does become available to us. Anticipation of installation is probably towards the end of June. So, answer any questions?
Okay, thank you, Jim. For the public's benefit, this is Jim McKenzie, our city's chief IT officer.
Jim, so this system, even with the new projectors, would allow the public then a better view of what we see behind us, because sometimes it's hard to see when you're out there.
Much better view. In terms of brightness and color quality, it'd be much better.
And also online. I know we can't control the television, but if we're online.
Online
it'd
would be a
better
full
view.
high definition image online, as well as much better integration of a presenter's information into that high definition stream online.
And how did this system come in relationship to what you budgeted for?
We budgeted 65,000. This is a little under 62, so we're within budget.
Thank you.
You bet.
So Jim, it's a projection system, and did you look at putting it up, because it's digital, putting it up on TV screens around the room versus the projection?
Well, yeah, I mean, still projection, you're going to get a bigger image. The room size and the layout will get a bigger image with a projection on these front screens than even with an 80-inch TV. These are like 108, so we'll have a larger image, and it'll be same high def resolution, plus you'll get a much brighter image than what you see today. We could put a TV back in this back corner. In fact, we've included in the proposal putting a jack back there for it, so if indeed you wanted to add an 80 or a 90-inch TV back in this back corner for viewing, that could be added in the future.
Okay, very good, thank you.
Okay. And Jim, we've been planning for these upgrades, planning and budgeting for these upgrades for some time.
Correct, yes.
Okay, so, very good. Any other questions? Thank you. Any other discussion, council? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Okay, that takes us to item number 20 on our regular agenda, Would look for a motion to consider approval of an engineering construction design services contract with Riverwise Engineering LLC for the Johnson Park In-Stream Improvements Project for an amount not to exceed $135,322.
So moved.
Okay, motion and second. And Steve, would you give some background on this, please?
Mayor, council members, for about the past 18 months or so, the city's been engaged with the community in a conversation about renovation of the North Fork River from north of First Street to a point roughly south of Norfolk Avenue. There's been a variety of public engagement on that process, more specifically back in the latter part of 2017, early part of 2018. And subsequent to that, there were two reports generated, one by Riverwise Engineering and one by JEO. The Riverwise study was focused primarily on the river restoration itself, which I would define as the portions of the river that are below the ordinary high water mark. The partner study with that, the Johnson Park study, was completed by JEO, and that looked at the river restoration above the high water mark as well as other improvements within Johnson's Park. After those studies, we engaged in conversation of the cost of the project and went out and sought some partners, some local community partners. The LENRD specifically stepped forward with a 1/3 match on the river restoration. The local sanitary district also stepped forward with a $250,000 contribution towards that project. The city has also budgeted for 1/3 cost of the restoration, and then the bulk of that would be seeking local grants, federal grants, state grants, as well as local partners to cover the remaining costs of the project. Before you tonight are three projects or three contracts. Those are items 20, 21, and 22, and I will readdress items 21 and 22 as necessary when we get to those items. But I will talk in general about all three of those. This current project with Riverwise is for $135,000, a little north thereof. That's going to get us to 70% design for the river restoration portion. That is where we need to get to submit the project for various permitting agencies, be that the Corps of Engineers, NEPA, which is a series of environmental reviews. The other two projects are structured very similarly. They're structured to get enough design done that we can get it submitted through the permitting agencies to ensure that we have projects that we can move forward. Once we have those permits in hand and we have dollars dedicated to the project to get us through construction, then we would move the project forward from there. There are, if we needed to take some time and look at some images, we sure can. Those would be images that were prepared as part of those two studies. I think they've been distributed and seen through the media and through other meetings internally. But with that, I'd certainly open it up to any conversation or discussion that you might have.
Thank you, Steve. In the meantime, while we have discussion here, can we pull up the image of the proposed changes to the river channel?
We'll have to connect.
Okay. And maybe just so everyone has an idea of the mechanics of this, what is being proposed essentially is removal of the spillway under the First Street Bridge spillway, which is a remnant of the original dam structure, which creates about a 12.5 to 13-foot drop abruptly under First Street on the North Fork of the Elkhorn River, replacing that with 8 different drop structures over about 1,000-foot span. And the illustration, when we get to it, will help lay that out. But are there any questions for Steve on the mechanics of this in the meantime?
Steve, on, I guess on all three of these items we're going to talk about tonight, they have these plans in place that should assist us more, if I understand it, in the grant funding and alternative sources of funding. They have that ahead of time?
That's correct. Right now, we are, the funding that we're using to get to this stage, of this initial stage of design would be internal city funding through our Keno dollars or our CHAF dollars to get to that stage. The dollars that are being donated or generated through our local partners, we'll reserve those dollars until we know we have projects to move forward.
And on this part of the project, the river restoration project, there was extensive public discussion that happened last year in context of recruiting the partnership of the local natural resources district in the project, the Lower Elkhorn NRD. The project itself, the river restoration project, is estimated to cost a little more than $3 million. And as Steve noted, the Lower Elkhorn agreed to contribute a little more than $1 million. There's been agreement among the Sanitary Improvement District to contribute $250,000. And so the original plan on this for funding this portion of the project was the NRD covering a third, the city through its budgeting of Keno dollars contributing a third, and the private sector contributing a third. So that outlines the finance plan for this portion of it.
The image you see before you would be the image that was included in the Riverwise study. It shows the first input structure, or the first drop structure, being just north of the railroad tracks. 8 drop structures. The 8th drop structure would be just south of Norfolk Avenue. In total, it's probably creating around, there's 12 feet of drop right there at First Street between the old drop structure for the mill and then the flume on the east side. And then you probably have about another foot of natural drop from the north side to the south side of that length. So from number 1 to number 7 or number 8 there, about 13 feet of drop through that area. It'll create, a pretty nice recreational feature through town is what we're seeing across the country with these. And if I may, I'll just quickly, I've got one slide there that shows, this is Manchester, Iowa. Anybody that would have Google Earth or something like that could go out there to Google Earth, and you can clearly see where this series of drop structure is there. Riverwise on their website, they have other locations across the country of projects that they've done, and likewise it's pretty easy to find those through a variety of internet searches. But very remarkable changes in the river structures through those communities, in aesthetics, in safety, and in the economic development that brings to the community.
Thank you, Steve. I think it's important to note the whys of this. Why are we doing this? And as Steve just hit on, safety is an important component. We see more and more interest in using the North Fork and other river systems in the area for recreation. And what we have right now is, frankly, a very unsafe environment for usage of that river. And removing that spillway greatly and vastly improves public safety. The recreation benefits, I think, speak for themselves when you look at projects like this across the Midwest and across the country. And restoration of the river channel to its more true natural course does provide benefits in other areas. So with that, I know there's some people here that may wish to comment on these projects, and I want to allow some time for discussion if there are any members of the public who wish to comment. Mr. Mayor, good evening.
Well, good evening. My name is Jim Miller, a longtime member of the Norfolk Riverwalk Board of Directors. Regarding community projects, there's an old saying, seeing is believing. I think this is backwards. For example, if you consider all the major and extraordinary projects such as the Lifelong Learning Center, the wonderful trails throughout our city, to the recent expansion of the YMCA, just to name a few. Each of these institutions and landmarks of our good life began as an inspired belief and dreams of community leaders and such as yourself who looked at beyond today for a better tomorrow. For the record, I think it's fair to say our Riverwalk project has labored for over 30 years to fulfill the benefits and dreams of many of our citizens. On behalf of the Board of Directors, I want to commend and thank you and those who have brought us to this point in our Riverwalk journey. With your continued support and efforts from all of us, this new urbanism of city planning that promotes living, working, shopping, recreating within easy walking distance will become a reality. In the words of a past visionary and civic leader, J. Paul McIntosh, the Norfolk River and the Old Mill Dam will be a damn sight better and become the pride of Norfolk and Northeast Nebraska for years to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Miller.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. As you all know, my name is Tracy Jeffrey, the Director of the Norfolk Area Visitors Bureau. This project would allow visitors to experience Norfolk's history, tradition, and culture via the waterway that brought our town to life. The economic impact of a diverse tourist attraction will appeal to locals as well as visitors and is a prime opportunity for sustainable growth in the area of tourism. In 2018, 292,000 visitors came to Madison County. That is, they spent $46.6 million. Tourism sustained 670 direct jobs, which is $11 million in total income. Visitors inject outside dollars into our community by spending money at our area restaurants, gas stations, hotels, campgrounds, and retail stores. These outside dollars are a critical component in the strength of our economy. The potential from the investment is immeasurable. Riverfront development projects across the United States have been a large growth in visitors, which in turn have created millions of dollars in the local economy. With your buy-in to this project, we can make Norfolk a must-see destination in the region and in the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason.
Hello, Council. My name is Gabriel Steinmeier, and it's my pleasure to come and talk to you today as the Director of Workforce Development for the Norfolk Chamber and the City of Norfolk. Projects like this are going to be key when we look at how to attract and retain our future workforce, and that is the most important thing that we can be doing right now for Norfolk. all of our companies in town are looking at how they can bring in more employees, how they can retain those employees. And one of the key efforts and one of the key answers to that problem is quality of life initiatives, recreation, and entertainment. And this project goes a very long way in answering that need that we have for what are our people going to do when they come here? What are they going to do with their families? What are they going to do when they are out looking at their spare time and bringing their family and their friends to our community? And so projects like this are going to be the exact thing that we need to do to grow Norfolk and to keep our companies thriving and growing into the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Afternoon.
Evening.
My name is Joe Ferguson. I'm a member of the Norfolk Action Council. I have a letter that I'll read on behalf of the council. We took action a couple weeks ago to support this project, and we're hoping that the council will support it as well. Norfolk Action Council is a subcommittee of the Norfolk Area Chamber of Commerce, organized to render aid in long-term development of manufacturing, industrial, scientific, educational, and business enterprises situated in the Norfolk area, and to induce the location in the Norfolk area of such enterprises. We as a committee are writing this letter in support of the Johnson Park Riverfront Development Project. The river project proposed fits into the downtown revitalization master plan, which has already been invested in. The way the riverfront trail, the Action Council is in support of the proposal to make the river navigable underneath the First Street Bridge and through what is now a steeply graded, impassable spillway for recreation purposes. The Johnson Park project was completed. When completed, will improve quality of life for residents and attract new residents to the area. Our goal is to sustain our workforce and have the tools to recruit long-term employment. Action Council strongly supports this project to complete our mission. Sincerely, Thomas Hickenbotham, Vice Chair of the Action Council. Appreciate your support on this project. I'll also speak on behalf of the Norfolk Riverfront Development Group, maybe to ease some of your concerns. The group voted several months ago to support this project financially, and our unofficial vote was to support it financially as a public-private partnership venture. That's really the way we see this project, as a public-private partnership. But the group has voted to commit to helping raise the minimum of $1 million to help match the city's contribution and the NRD's contribution. So should be some strong support based on that commitment from the Riverfront Group, which is made up of a number of community leaders. So we ask for your support on this project. Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Okay. Other comments, discussion? Because I did want to note to some of those points, as you've heard, this is not a project that was dreamed up overnight. There are years of history behind it, going back to the mayorship of Jim Miller, who we thank for being here tonight, and for having the vision of seeing the potential in this, and going back to the NRD. And I remember the discussion we had last year, looking at planning documents from the late 70s to do the very thing we're talking about right now in terms of promoting public safety in this area and recreation based on water resources. So I think this is an idea whose time has come, and we've taken the time to create the right partnerships to do it responsibly and efficiently, and as Joe mentioned, to utilize public-private partnerships to make it happen. So with that, any further discussion or comments, council, before we vote? Hearing none, I'd ask for your vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Now I look for a motion to consider approval of an engineering services contract with JEO Consulting Group Incorporated for the Norfolk Johnson Park Improvements Project for an amount not to exceed $99,172.96.
So move, Your Honor.
Second?
Okay? And Steve, again, would you give us some background on this?
Mayor, council, bringing up the next quote associated with that. Comes up. This is going to be the second. This would be the second of the three contracts.
This is not the plan for Johnson Park, by the way.
This is not the plan.
We have limits in what we can do geographically.
We'll see if she comes up there. We have an IT person in the house for some reason. There we go. Thanks, guys. Let me get that back up and we'll go up here. Here we go. Like I say, this is the second of the three contracts. This would be for the Johnson Park portion. One of the studies that was done, the one by JEO last year, we worked with Big Muddy Workshop on that one and JEO. There were a couple public meetings during the winter between 17 and 18. The study was finalized around March of 2018. And there are various improvements shown within the park, specifically the trails that would be above the ordinary high water mark that run along both the north and south side or east and west sides of the river, pretty much from Norfolk Avenue all the way north of First Street. I think north of First Street it terminates on the south side, a little bit between the railroad, about halfway between the railroad tracks and First Street. On the north side, I believe the trails connect into some of the existing trails that we've done as a function of Johnson Park. The amendments that were shown within this study to occur within the park were not taken to the point that we necessarily know exactly how the design fits. So we're showing an amphitheater, we're showing various spaces within the park, maybe a new playground area, that type of stuff. More specifically, what this contract's going to do is look at some of the trail areas adjacent to the river. Is the amphitheater the answer there? And then take those designs to a point that we know what it's going to take to build them, to give us an engineer's cost estimate that we know is going to be pretty accurate. Right now, the numbers that are out there are just general planning numbers associated with these individual items. So this is to take us to about 30% design. Again, enough design along the river that we know we can build it, and enough design inside the Johnson Park area that we can put hard numbers to it. Total for the river restoration project, as the mayor had mentioned, that's about a $3.1 million project. Right now, we have identified about, with all the trails and so forth along here, the pedestrian bridge across the river there just east of First Street. We've identified about 2.8 million of improvements along the river and inside Johnson's Park.
Okay, thank you, Steve.
Parking being a part of that as well. We know we're going to have people coming to the park, so parking improvements along there.
So that's a good point. We're hearing these together because they all kind of fit together, correct, Steve? In terms of new attention being placed on this area with improvements made to the North Fork. We're initiating this contract to explore improvements within the park to make it more family-friendly, more community event-friendly, more recreation-friendly. I was walking in the area just yesterday. I saw half a dozen people fishing in it the way it is right now. I think we'll see a lot more interest in that if the river's made more accessible. And also looking at a very important part of this, which is improved parking. If you're going to have people there, we're going to have to determine where they're going to be able to access the park best. So that all goes into this initial plan. Any questions or comments from council? I guess, again, I'd add, going back to the grants, the planning grant we have already received from the state, there are grants that we are eligible to look at and apply for to pay for a good deal of this project. The CCCFF grant that we referenced is up to a $1.2 million max award, and community park improvement projects are eligible for such a thing. And we've also discussed other grant opportunities related to the river restoration part of it that I think are certainly within grasp for a project like this. Any comments, council or public otherwise?
Steve, as you look at, in items 20, 21, 22, when you look at the total dollars involved in these engineering design services, is that, you put all that together, it's about $340,000. Is that fairly typical for what we anticipate the size of the project being?
Yeah, looking at, we would typically look at for total percentage for engineering for design purposes against these projects. At the river restoration project at 3.1 million, we're at 135,000. So you're down in there at less than 5%. So to get us to 70% design, that's really pretty good.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? None, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Item number 22, would entertain a motion to consider approval of an engineering services contract with JEO Consulting Group Incorporated for the Norfolk First Street Bridge located by Johnson Park. Preliminary design project for an amount not to exceed $103,537.13.
Your Honor, I'd make that motion.
Second that, Your Honor.
Motion and second. Once again, Steve.
This would be the third portion of the project that's before you tonight, third contract. And this contract would be a design contract with JEO. I brought an image up on the screen that depicts a photo of the concept that we're looking for here, and that's to take the trail crossing that is currently an at-grade crossing at First Street on the north side of the bridge there, and taking that crossing and putting it underneath First Street. To do that, we would need to take out the existing box culvert, multi-barrel box culvert structure that's there, and replace that with a single span bridge. And that's what this contract would do. Again, this is designed to get us to the stage of design we can submit the project for permitting purposes, make sure that the project is a go before we would advance from this stage. Safety enhancement certainly enhances, I think, the public use of the space when the space is done. It's interesting, if you go back, is just looking at old pictures of Johnson Park, you go back, I think it's to like, I don't know, there's pictures in 1921 of kids playing down there in the river at the bottom of the diversion structure or the drop structure that's there. And this really is getting us back more to what the river historically was for us here in Norfolk. A safe environment to go recreate and take the family to.
Thanks, Steve.
Again, total cost estimate for the bridge replacement's about $2.8 million with permitting costs in there. Up front here, the cost would be coming out of CHAF for design purposes, and we are looking to submit for a build grant next summer 2020, for the remaining portion of the cost.
And Steve, a build grant is a federal transportation grant that these kind of projects, local, regional projects of benefit could apply for. We've had initial discussions with our federal representatives on this grant process, and I think given the timing, given the time we have for planning and design, application for such a grant would likely be best next year as opposed to this year.
I think we're positioned well for the grant. We're rural in nature. Those grants like to find rural projects. They like to find projects with a safety focus to them. This project being kind of rural, safety focused, and then as well a unique project in terms of what it's doing to restore an old feature of the community and enhance the community with the recreational component the project brings.
There are none other like it in the state anywhere, I don't believe, are there? For cities of our size?
I'm not aware that there's, yeah, we would be the first in the state for a project like this.
And again, I think what makes this project unique to any others in the state and a lot of others in the Midwest is just a setup, natural waterway that's flood controlled right off your downtown, proximate of downtown shopping and entertainment, this, with a historic park right next door. The potential here not only for improved public safety and recreation with the project is great, but also I think and hope the potential for the private redevelopment that will be prompted by these improvements is also great and potentially transformational for the city. Any other discussion, comments, council? Hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Item 23, I would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5582 as amended, approving an amendment to section 27-280.02 of the city code to modify the boundaries of the North Fork of the Elkhorn River Overlay District and to consider approval of a North Fork of the Elkhorn River Overlay District map delineating the resulting boundary. As a note, ordinance number 5582 as amended passed on first reading only at the April 15th council meeting.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration ordinance number 5582 on second reading.
Second?
Okay, motion and second. And Val, would you give us a refresh on this, please?
Yes, thank you. This was, like you said, tabled initially, and we amended the boundaries to remove the area north of Benjamin and also to clean up the boundaries so that they followed street lines, not down property lines or alley lines. And because it passed on first reading only last time, what was attached to the agenda this time were those amended maps so that everybody could see exactly what was done with the amendment last time.
Okay, thanks, Val. Questions for Val on that? Council, discussion? Public or otherwise? Okay. No further discussion. Short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 27-280.02 of the official city code to modify the boundaries of the North Fork of the Elkhorn River Overlay District, to approve the North Fork of the Elkhorn River Overlay District map delineating the resulting boundary, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
Voting in favor of ordinance 5582 as amended on second reading, council members Granquist, Lange, Merrill, Murin, Jackson, Clausen, File. Voting against the ordinance, Councilman Wiebelhaus. Ordinance 5582 carries on second reading.
All right. Takes us to item number 24. We'd look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5583, approving an amendment to section 27-280.01 of the city code to clarify the intent of the North Fork of the Elkhorn River Overlay District and to amend section 27-280.05 to increase the number of review board members from 5 to 9 and to include residency requirements. Ordinance number 5583 was tabled at the January 22nd council meeting and passed on first reading only at the April 15th council meeting.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance number 5583 on second reading.
Second. Okay, motion and second. And Val, just a quick overview on this, please, too.
Yes, this is, like you said, the intent, clarification, because some people were confused initially that we were going to come back afterwards, you know, of existing properties to have the riverfront overlay be part of their property. We are actually trying to preserve existing residential, and it's for new development going forward. And then the second part of that is going from 5 to 9 members, with at least 4 of the 9 members residing in the overlay district.
All right, thank you, Val. Any questions? Comments? Okay, hearing none, please vote. No, I'm sorry. Got ahead of myself. Short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 27-280.01 of the official city code to clarify the intent of the North Fork of the Elkhorn River Overlay District, to amend Section 27-280.05 to increase the number of review board members from 5 to 9 and to include residency requirements, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, with that, please vote.
All council members present, excuse me, voting in the affirmative. Ordinance 5583 carries on second reading.
Okay. Item number 25, look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 1 with Elkhorn Paving Construction for the Gap Paving District number 514 and Sidewalk District number 2018-1 15th Street project, resulting in a net increase of $8,180.50.
I'll make the motion.
Okay, motion second. And Steve, could you provide us some background on this, please?
Mayor, Council, this is change order number 1 for paving district over there on 15th Street. The majority of the work was completed last year. Pretty much that project is now 100% complete. This adjusts the contract to final as-built quantities. About 3,700 of this is for the paving district, and about 4,500 of this is for the sidewalk district. The sidewalk district portion included a tree removal for about $2,000 of that, so almost 50% was for tree removal. With this brings the project still under our original engineer's estimate. It was a good project. I think the neighbors are pretty happy with it.
Okay, very good. Thanks, Steve. Any questions or comments, council? If none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Item number 26, would entertain a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5609, rescinding ordinance number 5592, creating paving district number 517.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance number 5609.
Second that.
Okay, motion and second. And Steve, again, some background on this, please.
Mayor and council members, this is a follow-up item related to the last 2 council meetings where we're discussing changes to an amendment for the construction of 40th Street in the Fountain Point subdivision. As a function of approving the subdivision amendment for that project, that amendment requires the rescinding of this ordinance. that originally created the district. And so the item before you is simply kind of the final paperwork associated with that subdivision amendment. I can certainly, if you want to go into more detail about what it is, I sure can.
This essentially finalizes the agreement that
This would
was
be-
made 2 weeks ago.
That is correct. This would be the last agenda item related to that.
Okay. Any questions or comments, council? None. Short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to rescind ordinance number 5592, creating paving district number 517, as passed by the mayor and city council of the City of Norfolk on February 4, 2019, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5609 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd move that we suspend the rules and pass this ordinance on second and third reading.
Second that.
Okay, motion and second to suspend the rules.
Who did the second?
If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5609 carries on second and third readings.
Item 27, I would look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5610, providing for correction of a legal description contained in ordinance 5606, which created Water Extension District number 123.
And I'll make a motion for consideration of approval of ordinance number 5610.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion second. Again, Steve, background.
Mayor and council, before you tonight are both items 27 and 28 related to the South Victory Road water and sewer extension districts. These extension districts, as well as some that we've done in the past, require extensive amount of legal boundary work to both create the district and then to amend the legal descriptions that we acquire for the properties through the assessor's office. Currently, there's one person within the city structure that's legally entitled to draft and legal descriptions. Well, two, myself and our attorney. Being a licensed land surveyor, I'm probably the most qualified to do so. I'm sure it's not a surprise to you that this isn't the first time you've seen some of these things come back. As a function of seeing a couple of these in the last few agendas, we are going to be doing some internal training related to writing and reviewing legal descriptions to avoid these things coming back to us for amendments. These amendments primarily were either patent or what we would refer to as patent ambiguities or latent ambiguities. The patent ambiguities are something wrong with the legal description that would, on the face of the description, that would prevent a land surveyor from being able to position that description on the ground. The latent ambiguities are ambiguities that you can only see from reading through the description and attempting in your mind to put that legal description on the ground. And so there were a couple of those in there. Those are much more difficult to see. I think we took the opportunity, since we were making these, we made a grammatical correction on one, another one that it was more punctuation than anything. So again, I'd answer any questions you have related to this particular item, and again, as we get into the next item, that one as well.
Okay, questions for Steve? Essentially, these are technical corrections to
That is correct.
legal descriptions. Okay. Discussion, comments? Hearing none. Short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend ordinance number 5606 pursuant to section 192402 NRS 1943 as amended, creating Water Extension District number 123 in the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, establishing the outer boundaries of the district, designating the size, location, and terminal points, referring to the plans, specifications, and engineer's estimate in connection therewith, and to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and for publication of this ordinance.
please vote.
Voting in favor of ordinance number 5610 on first reading, and this ordinance does require 6 positive votes. Council members Granquist, Langy, Merrill, Murin, Jackson, Clausen, File. Voting against the ordinance, Council member Weeblehouse. Ordinance 5610 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I make a motion we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5610 on second and third.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second to suspend the rules. No further discussion, please vote.
Voting in favor of ordinance 5610 on second and third, council members Rehnquist, Langy, Merrill, Murin, Jackson, Clausen, File. Voting against the ordinance, council member Weeblehouse. Ordinance 5610 carries on second and third.
Item number 28, I would look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5611, providing for correction of legal description contained in ordinance number 5607, which created sanitary sewer extension district number 252.
I'll offer for consideration Norris number 5611.
Second.
Okay. And Steve, background on this sounds similar to the last item.
Correct. Since this is the sewer portion of the utility extensions on South Victory, it was the same legal descriptions that were originally used to create those districts. And so the same corrections that were being performed on the previous item, those same changes were being made here.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Any questions, comments on that? If not, short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend ordinance number 5607 pursuant to section 19-2402 NRS 1943 as amended, creating sanitary sewer extension district number 252 in the City of Norfolk, Nebraska, establishing the outer boundaries of the district, designating the size, location, and terminal points, referring to the plan's specifications and engineer's estimate in connection therewith, and to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and for publication of this ordinance.
Okay, please vote.
Once again, this ordinance does require 6 positive votes. Voting in favor of ordinance number 5611 on first reading, council members Granquist, Langy, Merrill, Murin, Jackson, Clausen, File. Voting against the ordinance, council member Weeblehouse. Ordinance 5611 carries on first reading.
Again, Your Honor, I'd make a motion to suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5611 on second and third.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. If no further discussion, please vote.
Voting in favor of ordinance 5611 on second and third, council members Granquist, Langy, Merrill, Murin, Jackson, Clausen, File. Voting against the ordinance, council member Weeblehouse. Ordinance 5611 carries on second and third.
Okay, item 29 would look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5612, repealing ordinance number 5600, creating sidewalk district number 2018-2.
Your Honor, I'd move for consideration of approval of ordinance number 5612.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. And Danny, background on this, please.
Yes, Mayor and Council. When we created ordinance number 5600, that was done, it was a procedural oversight on my part, so I do apologize. We did need a supermajority. We needed 6 votes. We didn't receive those, and I mistakenly advised the mayor to provide that 6th vote, later realizing and remembering that he could not do so. So that was my fault, and I do apologize for that, but we're back here to rescind that and hopefully do it properly this time.
Okay, so this is rescission of the previous vote. Any questions on the procedure on this, council? Okay. If no further discussion, short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to repeal ordinance number 5600, creating sidewalk district number 2018-2 as passed by the mayor and city council of the City of Norfolk on March 4th, 2019, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5612 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5612 on second and third reading.
Second?
Okay, motion second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5612 carries on second and third.
Okay, item 30, I would look for a motion to consider approval of resolution number 2019-25, authorizing approval of an ordinance creating sidewalk district number 2019-2, Square Turn Boulevard, providing for construction of sidewalks along all that portion of Square Turn Boulevard from Benjamin Avenue to Wilson Avenue, 11th Street from Wilson Avenue south approximately 328 1/3 feet, and Grant Avenue approximately 197 1/3 feet west of Square Turn Boulevard to Square Turn Boulevard.
Your Honor, I'd offer for consideration Resolution 2019-25.
Okay, motion and second, and Steve, background on this.
Mayor, council members, this is a function of the repeal that was just passed in 29, so that passing, we are now recreating the sidewalk district over there that would be built in conjunction with the construction of Square Turn Boulevard. That project is basically ready to go, and so with the approval of these, I would anticipate that project moving forward probably in the June timeframe.
Okay, questions for Steve on this?
I get one question. When in the process of moving forward with sidewalk districts, obviously I've been voting against this. I know you guys have probably noticed that lone vote. And it's really not because I'm against sidewalks. It's because I'm worried moving forward we're just creating precedents on how we're going to develop our sidewalk districts and how we're going to pay for them. I know there's been a common theme that we've just continued to do things like we've always done things. But I really caution that we sit back and we listen and or maybe think about how we move forward with these. We are going to be creating financial burden on individuals with these districts because obviously they're going to be assessments against their property. And I want to be part of that discussion or make sure we continue to have those discussions, you know, because we will see more of this. It's going to come. And we just got to, I think we need to make sure that there's discussion there on how we allow and who's going to be assessed, and if there is means where you can't afford that assessment, how that works. And those are discussions I have been part of. Obviously when this was brought up and it came through, I wasn't on the council, and now that I'm back on, I feel like it's something that isn't something we need to do moving forward. So as of tonight, I really haven't gotten anybody come talk to me against this in that neighborhood. So tonight I will be supporting this, but last few times I haven't, but I will support this just because obviously I've got an opportunity to, but I do caution that we do take steps to have those discussions. Thanks.
Steve, I guess I wasn't on the council either when this was all planned out. Is this, the sidewalk is because there's some streets are going to be paved in that area? That'd be correct?
Correct. It's not per se because the streets are going to be paved. My recollection is we didn't have a sidewalk ordinance until 1984 that required sidewalks to be constructed when a house was built. It's probably pretty likely that most of those homes over there predate that time frame. So to the extent that today when you build a house, you build a sidewalk, this is really about kind of backing that up in the parts of the community where we do not have sidewalks that were built when the homes were built, and getting those constructed so that we have a walkable, safe community. We are taking, because we are doing the paving along Square Turn, that is a fairly heavily used route right now. We are wanting to move forward with the sidewalk district at the same time.
Yeah, and on that note, I'm definitely not one to vote ever for the waivers. I think if it's the rules there, it should go in. But going forward, we're not going to continue to look at, there are a lot of gravel streets in my ward, but we probably wouldn't put a sidewalk in unless we pave the street, I guess is what I'm trying to get at here. I mean, is it a good idea?
That's probable. I guess that's a discussion that we'll have to have as staff and elected officials. But at some point, I would anticipate that we'll be coming out here with a plan to call in sidewalks, across the city in some kind of an organized fashion that doesn't overburden the construction industry to do that. I would anticipate we would call them in voluntarily and ask people to build their sidewalks. And then if they're not, then we would have to address that.
And that would tie in with the discussions that Councilmember Clausen wants to have too. All right, thank you.
Well, I think gets to a challenge that we seem to be addressing over and over here lately, which are gaps in our sidewalk system throughout the community and how you best fill those. The fact is they're needed for safety, and you want to do it in the most fair and equitable manner possible. In this instance, when you're doing street construction, it makes sense to tackle the sidewalk district at the same time.
Yeah, I'd remind council that within Norfolk, we do not have inter-city busing for our kids to school. And so those kids that are inner city are either walking or they're getting a ride from a parent.
That's a good point. Any other questions or discussion on this, council? Okay, hearing none, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, Resolution 2019-25 is adopted.
That takes us to item 31. I would look for a motion to consider approval of ordinance number 5613, creating sidewalk district number 2019-2, which provides for construction of a sidewalk along all that portion of Square Turn Boulevard from Benjamin Avenue to Wilson Avenue, 11th Street from Wilson Avenue South, approximately 328 1/3 feet, and Grand Avenue, approximately 197 1/3 feet west of Square Turn Boulevard to Square Turn Boulevard.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration of ordinance number 5613 on first reading.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. And Steve and Danny, this is just a function of the procedure in establishing the sidewalk district, correct? Comment on?
Correct.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Any other discussion, comments, council? Not, short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance creating sidewalk district number 2019-2 in the city of Norfolk, Nebraska, describing said sidewalk district, ordering the construction of sidewalks therein, and ordering the publication of the ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5613 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I'd move that we suspend the rules and pass ordinance number 5613 on second and third reading.
Second?
Okay, motion second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. No further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5613 carries on second and third.
Okay, item number 32, I'd look for a motion to consider approval to award and approve a contract for 2019 Norfolk Brosh Avenue 5th to 1st Streets project.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Motion and second, and Steve, could you give us some background and an update on this, please?
Mayor and council, I do not have a bid to present to you tonight for construction of Brosh Avenue. On May 2nd, opening bid date, we received no bids for that project. A little bit of background there. We had advertised the project on April 16th. It was re-advertised on the 23rd and the 30th. We had a pre-bid meeting on the 29th. At that time, the bid holders list had 4 potential prime bidders. There were 2 potential prime bidders that attended the pre-bid meeting. Information about the project was shared with the bidders at that time. The bid was set up as a base bid for 2019 construction, and then we had an alternate bid for 2019-2020 construction. We did not receive bids on either one of those. The recommendation as we go forward, and I've got JEO is here, Nathan Boone with JEO is here, and he'll have some more information from you. We are going to be recommending that we re-advertise later this week, with another bid opening towards the end of the month. I can't remember if it's the 29th or 30th, for a 2020 construction. Now, the reason that we're recommending that we move very quickly to get that on the street is we are already hearing from sister cities that they are bidding for 2020 and have already started receiving bids and approving contracts for 2020 construction. So we know that that window is going to be starting to fill up here over the next couple months as well. So we do want to move forward. And again, Nathan Boone with JEO is here to provide a little bit more background information on the project.
Certainly. Thank you, Steve. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Again, my name is Nathan Boone, and I'm here on behalf of JEO. Just to give you a little snapshot on the kind of bidding climate we're looking at right now, a few examples that have recently been bid, a few projects here pretty close to Norfolk. One is in Schuyler. It is a street improvement project that was recently bid. A single bid was received. The bid was $170,000 over the engineer's estimate for a contractor with limited paving experience. After weighing the options with the city and with discussions with JEO, the city elected to move forward with that contract, but there is some concern with the limited paving experience that they do have. The Wayne, Nebraska street improvement project was bid in early April. Again, a single bid was received with two options, one for 2019 construction as well as one for a 2020 construction season. The 2019 season option came in $185,000 over the engineer's estimate, and the 2020 season option came in approximately $112,000 over the engineer's estimate. The city elected to award the 2020 construction season for that one. The third was in Wahoo. As some of you may know, there is a very large project on Chestnut Street in Wahoo with a very reputable contractor. With all of the recent flooding that's been going on, the DOT reached out to the contractor and the city of Wahoo asking for assistance. If there's any way that the contractor could get a 2-month leave of absence from the community in order to help out with that flood. Temporary flood recovery, and the city agreed. So that contractor, who was completely full for 2019, has elected to assist the state, assist in DOT, and take 2 months away from their project just to help out with flood recovery. So you can see there's a very competitive bid climate that we're in right now. That is a function of the flood that occurred, as well as just the amount of work that the contractors have, not only with a lot of the small communities, but within DOT as well. And then again, to echo the urgency to rebid this project as soon as possible, not only with the amount of work that we're seeing from 2019, but contractors are starting to see 2020 construction work come out and bid. Again, the work in Wayne is a good example of a contractor looking to move a project through 2020. And then, as my understanding, Norfolk also received some bids here recently, contingent on that work occurring in 2020. We also are aware of a very large project that will be occurring outside of O'Neill. We really want to get ahead of that project so we can be competitive in the bids that we receive. And then again, the permanent flood recovery construction really has yet to start. All the work we've seen is temporary work. We expect a few month lag, but we'll start to see some permanent work trickle out here pretty soon. And once that does hit, that'll be a very, very aggressive construction season for 2020 and potentially beyond that. So we definitely want to get ahead of that work. So with that, I'll open it up to any questions and conversation.
Nathan, you'd mentioned a few of these projects coming in over the engineer's bid. Approximately what percentage over are they showing up at?
It really varies, just depending on where within the state it is, where in relation to the flood impacts it is. So I don't have a firm number on that.
Okay.
Not a question so much for Nathan, but Steve, because a lot of this is being funded through a grant, I believe. What's ramifications for 2020?
Correct, council member. Working with Northeast Economic Development, we've been having those conversations as soon as the bid came out. They were present for the bid opening, and we immediately engaged in that conversation and then had follow-up conversations, I believe, the next day as well. We have 3 grants on that project. The 2 grants that we had originally reached out or requested and received, And then there was a third grant that was moved over to the project as well. It is that third grant that we're most concerned about. Just, it's an older grant to begin with. And so we really want to encumber those funds this year to cover the requirements of that grant. We are working with JEO to structure the bid that would allow us to award a contract and provide an upfront payment to cover that.
Because I knew there was significant portion of the project.
The other two grants we would ask for an extension for. And working with again, Northeast Economic Development, that is across the state. They realize that with the flooding that they're going to see a lot of grant requests, grant extension requests come in. So it's our understanding from them, kind of taking their lead, that they are not seeing any issues related to extension on the first two. And neither one of those currently have any extension on them.
And I'll add from the bidding climate, a lot of this is really applies to paving contractors. We are seeing some flexibility with utility contractors getting water, storm, sanitary underground. So we are looking for ways, we're working with Steve and staff to be creative on ways to entice contractors to still possibly do some 2019 work. The trouble has certainly been finding paving contractors who can prime the contract and lead this. We are looking at the alternatives at our disposal, or the options at our disposal to entice a contractor to do any work possible in the 2019 season.
So Nathan, to characterize the problem here, it's the unfortunate timing of the flooding and all of the demand that's involved with the recovery process there. And it's the pavers are that are a shortage. So there's potential with re-advertised bid. We could get some utility work done in 2019 in advance of 2020 construction on Rosh. That would be the ideal scenario.
Correct. That would be the ideal scenario.
In a normal year, I think Steve had referenced there had been 4 interested parties at the initial let on this. In a normal year, outside the flooding, do we anticipate that we would have gotten bids from those 4 entities?
On a normal year, I would say we would typically see 3 to 4 bids on this from our local paving contractors, those within about a 50-mile radius of us.
Okay.
Was this project prior to this, the flood? Was this the word out on the street about this project?
Yes.
We've been talking about it for, what, a year and a half?
Yeah, and it was because of that, the conversations that we've had locally, some of the media coverage that's been out there, the grants that we've received to go towards the project, and the messaging all along has been that this is going to be a 2019 build. And even as the flooding was kind of happening, we immediately engaged in conversations about that with JEO. And again, we all agreed that there are contractors out there that are watching this project and anticipating this coming.
Throughout the process, we were certainly in touch with contractors throughout central and eastern Nebraska. And as the floods began to come in, we were able to start seeing the results of that and the impact to the contracting world. We reached out and started having conversations with those in South Dakota, Iowa, even northern Kansas, and moving a little further west in Nebraska to try to gain as much interest as possible in this project.
So Steve, obviously this will be out. Will there be conversations with the stakeholders along that? The businesses and the organizations, so we don't get a lot of information that goes out that may not be all entirely correct?
Yes, we will engage our stakeholder committee, once we kind of get some direction here and know where we're headed with this. So the item, I would turn this, I'm going to kind of going to throw this over to Danny's court in terms of the item, the agenda item here and what needs to happen with this agenda item. Again, there was a agenda item authorizing us to go out for bids. We do not believe that we need another one. We're just going to turn around and re-advertise the project. So related to this action or this agenda item, there's nothing to approve.
Well, right, we can, there's two options, either move to amend this agenda item to move forward with re-advertising, relighting the bids, or we could just have a new motion to re-advertise for this project, and then the current agenda item would just die, would just go away. So either way is fine procedurally.
Seems a little bit cleaner to offer an amendment, so I'd look for amendment, but I do have one more question. There was a reference to incentives in this new bid, and I know we've had some internal discussions about things like potentially allowing for full closure of brush to incentivize contractors to look at this project more closely and advance it in some of their timelines. Are there things that would be referenced within the new bid to help entice maybe some more interest, given this external circumstances, the interest in this project?
Excuse me, I would say yes, there are items we are looking to really bring to the surface so contractors are aware of what those changes are and how we can build more interest in this project and hopefully keep prices down and get a construction as soon as possible within their allowable schedule.
And to the extent I'm sure there are some of those stakeholders listening to tonight's council meeting, it's going to be important that we get back to those stakeholders along that corridor and have conversations with them about some acceptability. What can we do within that corridor to open things up a little bit and allow more continuous construction throughout the corridor to try and shrink that down a little bit and get some incentive there, knowing that there's a demand on them and they're going to want to get in and get out and get the job done. And they're going to bid the project accordingly on that. So how can we help structure the project to allow that to happen? We know there are certain businesses on that corridor that only have front door access. And so we're going to need to visit with those this week and have that conversation so we can get the appropriate language in the bid documents.
Okay. All right. Any further questions, comments? So it looks at this point in time that we would need an amendment to re-advertise for contract bids for the Brosh Avenue project.
Your Honor, I'd move to amend item 32 to re-advertise for bids for the Brosh Avenue project.
Second.
Okay, motion and second. Any further discussion, council? None, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative.
Item 33, I would look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5614 to enact Chapter 13, Article 14 of the City Code to regulate the operation of sidewalk cafes. 15, I'm sorry. Never a big fan of Roman numerals.
More of a Greek guy.
Yeah.
I'll make a motion for consideration of ordinance number 5614.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion and second. And Danny, can you give us some background on this, please?
Yes. This ordinance before you was drafted following a request by a downtown restaurant owner and discussion among staff and at subcommittee. Nebraska Revised Statute 19-4301 gives the council permission to regulate its sidewalks for this purpose, and the ordinance was drafted in accordance with both state statute and the Americans with Disabilities Act. It provides for a downtown business which derives at least 35% of its gross profits from the sale of food to set up an outdoor sidewalk cafe adjacent to its business for the sale of food and alcohol. After an application is received by the city clerk, the use of city right-of-way downtown will be formalized in a sidewalk cafe license agreement that will then be approved by council. I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
I suppose I got a couple, but do they have to, is there anything in there about, do they have to fence it off? Is there a limit of how many seats? how does that impede in the sidewalk traffic?
Yes, all of those things are going to be part of this ordinance, but also more specifically, the license agreement between the city and the individual restaurant owner. So there will have to be a permanent fence put into place in accordance with the liquor laws. As far as the design of what goes inside that fence, that will be temporary. It'll be a seasonal thing. That will be submitted to the city clerk's office on an application form to be approved by the city, so that they can show that the design, whether it's, you know, seating, tables, outdoor couches, anything of that manner, that it would conform with the ADA and work with the particular size of the sidewalk cafe.
So Danny, along those lines, as I was reading through this, I didn't see anything in hours of operation. Would that be in the license application as well?
That is going to be in the license agreement. That will come, as soon as we get our first application, then that will come before council.
Okay, thank you.
And Danny, this ordinance was modeled after some other cities in Nebraska that have these. Can you talk about where you've looked at other codes for models in this regard?
Yes. So the main city that I used when putting together this ordinance was the city of Kearney, because of the similarity in size. I also looked at Lincoln. And I discussed with city representatives from Kearney when I put this together. And so a lot of this comes from there.
I imagine the impetus of this has been requests, interest, and
Certainly, requests,
Okay.
interests, a lot of the projects that we're doing downtown, which, you know, seem to make it appealing to new restaurant owners that are going in downtown that want during that, you know, the summer and maybe the fall season to put some kind of outdoor seating, because I don't think a lot of our restaurants currently have that ability, because it is right of way in most of the establishments downtown. So I think just all the projects that are going on kind of make it a friendly pedestrian environment. People want to be outside more when the weather is nice.
makes sense.
Mayor and Council, just as a follow-up to a couple of the questions that we got, and I'll just offer too that most of the time these will come up during pre-planning meetings, which as a staff we've had a lot of good luck with. If a proposed business or a building owner, restaurant owner, whoever that is, will walk through what their project and plan is before they start anything, and that gives them an opportunity to talk with Public Works, talk with our building inspectors, planning, zoning, legal if they would like, and so we can iron out a lot of those details ahead of time, so that way we can bring a complete package to the council for this. So I would imagine most of these would be worked out at a pre-planning meeting through the zoning process too.
Sure. Okay.
So just clarify, you'd be able to work out, because the sidewalks are only so wide till you step down. That would all be in all of this, so there's, could still be foot traffic outside the
Certainly,
fence.
and this ordinance does require that still be maintained. Our building code and all of our other codes in the city right away we have, it does provide for that as well. So really what this would do is be able to go in and say, here's my space, here's my room, here's what I want to do I have enough room to do this? And we would have our fire marshal, our building inspectors, everybody's in the room, and they're the experts on what you can and can't do, how much room do you need, and then we can really get into the details with each case individually on a case-by-case basis, because each one is going to be different for how much space they have that's passable.
Okay.
So absolutely, there would be opportunity to make sure that those are reviewed.
Thank you, Andy.
Is there some time sensitivity involved in these projects? Or I guess I'm asking in terms of considering this on just first reading or second, third readings tonight. Do you know of?
There is one business that we've been talking to, which kind of started this conversation, I guess, and was the impetus for bringing this forward. You know, this is something that, you know, we've maybe talked about as a staff for a while, as to, you know, we're going to start seeing more of this as you see your downtown get more active, which is a good thing. It's a great thing for our downtown business owners to see more cafes and coffee shops and boutiques and everything. So with more people, you're going to get more places for people to eat and enjoy spending their time. So I think we could kind of see this coming, and I think it's appropriate to take care of this. We do have a project that's in the works right now. I can't tell you exactly where they are right now, but we do have one, possibly another one that's under development as well, that would be looking to possibly add this. So it's not immediate, but again, it's going to depend on when they're ready to go and they get their plan and restaurant and their time frame ready to go. So as a staff, we would like to have this available if there's no concerns or opposition to it. But certainly that's up to the council if you choose to adopt second and third reading.
The licenses are renewable on an annual basis, are they not? Did I read that right in the draft?
Is it annual?
Yes.
I know we talked about a couple different things, so.
Yeah.
Okay, yes.
So really, if something glaring came up, we'd be able to fix it in the next
Yes.
go around. Yeah.
Yes, yep.
So to speak.
Okay. Any other questions, discussion, council? None, short title, please, Pat.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to enact Chapter 13, Article 15 of the Official City Code to regulate the operation of sidewalk cafes, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5614 carries on first reading.
I'll make a motion to suspend the rules and consider ordinance number 5614 on second and third.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third readings. No further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5614 carries on second and third.
Okay, item 34, we look for a motion to consider ordinance number 5615, amending the fee schedule in section 2-5 of the code to include sidewalk cafe license and renewal fees.
Your Honor, I'd move consideration for ordinance number 5615.
Second?
Okay, motion and second. Danny, anything else we should know about this?
I would just add that, so for the fee schedule, the initial application fee is going to be $250 per year, and then that will just turn into a renewal fee, which is also $250 per year.
Okay. Any other questions for Danny? Okay, hearing none. Short title, please, Beth.
An ordinance of the City of Norfolk, Nebraska to amend Section 2-5 of the Official City Code to include sidewalk cafe license and renewal fees, to provide when this ordinance shall be in full force and effect, and to provide for publication of this ordinance in pamphlet form.
Okay, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5615 carries on first reading.
Your Honor, I move we suspend the rules and pass ordinance 5615 on second and third reading.
Second.
Okay, motion and second to suspend the rules and approve on second and third. If no further discussion, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, ordinance 5615 carries on second and third.
All right, last but not least, item number 35. I'd look for a motion to consider approval of change order number 1 with Elkhorn Paving Construction Incorporated for the concrete improvements 2019-1 Prospect Avenue, 27th Street to Ridgeway Avenue, and the 1300 block of Monroe Avenue project, resulting in a net increase of $30,851.50.
I'll make a motion for consideration and approval of change order number 1.
Second that, Your Honor.
Okay, motion and second. Steve, some background on this one, please.
Mayor, Council, this change order is specifically related to the emergency repairs on Monroe Avenue in the 1300 block, there between Loves and Dietz. When we prepared the engineer's estimate, we estimated it based on GeoGrid and 12 inches of foundation over there. When we bid it with 4 inches of foundation. We wanted to have some verification once we exposed the slab that we actually needed the rest. Once we had a portion of the slabs out, we had a geotech come in and give us an independent structural pavement design and they came back with the geogrid and 12 inches, kind of confirming what we thought would be the correct design. So this is adjusting, I think it's 5,900 for the geogrid, and then about 24,000 for the additional foundation course. With this, we're still about $40,000 under what we had originally estimated for that Monroe repair. We also put in some drain tile to drain all that foundation course under there and daylight that out to some adjacent drainage structures. So I don't know if we got the last pour in yet, but I know there was one pour kind of remaining as of late last week, and then we'll should be able to open that in about 2 weeks.
Okay, thank you, Steve. Any questions? Discussion on this, council? Okay. Done, please vote.
All council members present voting in the affirmative, motion carries.
Okay, and that concludes this meeting of the Norfolk City Council.